You've got the point.
Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Jamie Owen. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories. At least 29 Palestinians reported killed in the latest Israeli strike on a home in central Gaza. Our other headlines, warnings of an imminent attack. Several countries issue travel alerts with fears that Iran will strike Israeli targets. There's untapped potential to explore China's Commerce Minister's message to Italy amid the tension between the EU and Beijing. And the power of the silver screen, the China Film Festival in London, sets the stage for deepening creative ties. At least 29 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli strike on a residential building. That's according to officials in Gaza. Israel's military has launched a series of fresh attacks across the besieged enclave, including the Nusrat camp in central Gaza, where dozens of people have been injured. USAID Chief Samantha Power is the first American official to publicly say that there is a famine in northern Gaza. This comes as the Israeli army says trucks carrying aid have now entered the strip through a newly opened crossing. Well, let's talk now to our correspondent Noor Harazin in Rafah. Noor, what more can you tell us about this attack?
Well, overnight, the Israeli warplanes targeted the At-Tabatibi family home. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 32 people were killed. This home is located in the Ad-Daraj neighborhood. This neighborhood, it is not a refugee camp. However, it is such a densely populated area. The homes are very close to each other. There is several families living in one home or one apartment. From the Palestinian Health Ministry, there were a statement of this Israeli attack on the At-Tabatibi family home. They said that 32 people were killed, including women and children, while dozens were injured, according also to the Palestinian Health Ministry. And in its latest statement, a joint statement between the Health Ministry and the Palestinian Governmental Office here in Gaza, the number of Palestinians that were killed here in Gaza during the past 24 hours is now up to 89 Palestinians, and this brought up the death toll here in Gaza since the 7th of October up to 33,632 Palestinians.
And we've heard from Ismail Haniyeh, one of the most important people in Hamas, about the death of his sons, 3 sons and 4 grandchildren. What did he say?
Well, Ismail Haniyeh is the head of the political bureau of Hamas, and he was wanted for Israel, and he's as important to Israel as the militant leaders like the Mohammed al-Daif or Yahya al-Sinwar. Yesterday, and in a televised speech, Ismail Haniyeh talked about the truth. He talked about the loss of his children, and he also addressed the people of Gaza.
احنا بالنسبه لنا يعني شعبنا الفلسطيني مصالحه مقدمه على.
For us, the interests of the Palestinian people are placed ahead of everything. Our sons and children are part of the people and part of the journey. What sets a tone of the resistance in the field and our politics is a response of the Zionist occupation to our demands. Primarily, a permanent ceasefire, their complete withdrawal and return of the displaced.
وقف إطلاق النار الدائم.
The sons of Ismail Haniya and also his grandsons were inside a car. They were going from their home to a relative home for celebration during the second day of Eid al-Fitr. However, an Israeli drone targeted the car, killing 3 of Ismail Haniya's sons and 4 of his grandsons. One girl, her name is Malak, and she's Ismail Haniya's granddaughter. She is still in a critical condition. And this is not the first time where Ismail Haniya loses members of his family in this Israeli war on Gaza, but also at the beginning of this Israeli war, this Israeli offensive, one child of Ismail Haniya, a girl actually, was killed.
And for the first time, we have a US official publicly warning of a famine in Gaza.
Well, yes, the humanitarian situation here in Gaza, it is just going from bad to worse, even though people thought with the great international pressure, the things here on the ground would get better. However, looking at what is happening actually here on the ground, things are just getting worse. Little aid is getting from Egypt. Even the number of the food aerial drops are not like before, even though they caused the killing of dozens of Palestinians. However, Palestinians saw these aerial drops as something that could help them here on the ground in Gaza. However, now Erez crossing, which is located in the north of Gaza and it links northern Gaza to Israel, it is now open, and Israel is allowing a very small number of humanitarian aid trucks to enter the Gaza Strip. According to Israeli officials, a number of humanitarian aid trucks were allowed to northern Gaza through the Erez crossing over the past 24 hours. Some of them are loaded with food, others are loaded with medical supplies for the Al-Shifa and also Kamal Udwan hospitals, which are located in northern Gaza.
Noor, thank you for that. Our correspondent Noor Harazin in Rafah. The United States has restricted travel for its embassy staff in Israel amid fears of an imminent attack by Iran. France and India are the latest countries to advise against travel to the Middle East due to the security threat. Tehran has vowed to retaliate, blaming Israel for the deadly strike on its consulate in Syria earlier this month. Well, let's talk to our correspondent Alex Cadier in Tel Aviv. Alex, what effect are these threats from Iran having within Israel itself?
Well, Jamie, you do get the sense of a country bracing for that retaliation. Everybody here knows exactly where their nearest bomb shelter is. We heard from U.S. intelligence speaking to CBS saying that more than 100 drones and dozens of ballistic missiles could be targeting Israel as early as today. So you do keep an eye on the sky. You do keep an eye on your rocket attack warning applications on your smartphone, and you wait, because we don't know when, we don't know how, but we know that that retaliation is coming. Again, U.S. intelligence saying in the next 24 to 48 hours. They're also saying that it could be targeting military infrastructure, and that's why we've seen that advisory from the U.S. State Department urging its diplomats not to leave here in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem or Beersheba in the south of Israel, those populated, those urban areas deemed to be safer. The French Foreign Ministry urging French nationals not to travel here either. Israel's response is that if Iran strikes on Israeli territory directly from Iran, the retaliation will be in kind. The Iranians will, the Israelis, I should say, will hit back on Iranian soil. A lot of diplomatic efforts also going on in the background. We know the US has been very involved in trying to de-escalate this situation. Even in the days after that strike, which killed the Iranian top generals in Damascus, the US told Iran that it had nothing to do with that strike. In the last 24 hours, Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, calling the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, calling Foreign Minister Wang Yi in China, urging them to exert their influence to avoid Iran's retaliation leading to an escalation. Iranian officials say their retaliation will be proportionate, will avoid an escalation. For now, we'll have to wait and see.
And the hostage protests are continuing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've seen a protest just in the last few minutes, actually, outside of the U.S. Embassy annex here in Tel Aviv. One sign saying, "We're not too proud to beg. Please help us release these hostages." Every Saturday evening here in Tel Aviv, the families of those hostages protesting, asking their government to reach a deal. But really sad news, according to U.S. intelligence sources again. They fear that most of the hostages still in Gaza may not be alive. We know that 129 remain in the enclave. 34 are assumed dead by the Israeli Defense Forces. But now U.S. and Israeli intelligence saying that that number may be much, much higher. We also know from Hamas in these negotiations, they say they don't have 40 so-called vulnerable hostages, women, the injured, and elderly hostages as old as 86 years old being held in Gaza, we understand. They cannot make up that number of 40 with that category. Israel says they may need to release men of fighting age or soldiers, around a single-digit figure is all we know, to make up for that number. But clearly, the situation with those hostages, the fact that most of them may be dead, according to U.S. intelligence sources, will make these negotiations all the more complicated, Jamie.
Alex, thank you for that. Our correspondent Alex Cadier in Tel Aviv. Argentina's highest court has blamed Iran for 2 attacks on Israeli targets in the 1990s. Judges declared Iran a terrorist state for bombing the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires in 1992, killing 29 people. A subsequent strike on a Jewish center 2 years later left 85 people dead. That strike was partly blamed on militants from Lebanon's Hezbollah. Both Tehran and Hezbollah have denied involvement. Thailand's foreign minister has called on Myanmar's military leaders to stop the violence as he visits the border town of Mae Sot. This comes after rebels fighting the military said they've taken control of a key town. Thailand says it's preparing for an influx of people crossing into the country due to the fighting. US President Joe Biden says his country's commitments to the defense of Japan and the Philippines remains ironclad. Biden hosted the first joint summit with Manila and Tokyo amid growing tension with China. In a joint statement, leaders from the 3 countries described Beijing's actions in the South China Sea as dangerous and aggressive. Well, China has rejected those remarks, saying it firmly opposes the manipulation of bloc politics.
The United States adheres to the Cold War mentality, threatening other countries with bilateral alliance treaties at every turn, which is a serious violation of UN Charter and undermines regional stability. China's determination to continue to safeguard its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests is unwavering, as is its determination to work with regional countries to maintain peace and stability in the South China Sea.
Well, tensions are rising between China and the Philippines over the Renai Reef in the South China Sea. There are calls for greater dialogue amid concern over the Philippines' alliance with the United States. Our correspondent Gretchen Malalad spoke to the Filipino security analyst Rommel Banloy.
We need to find ways for the 2 parties to start talking. The Philippine government under Bongbong Marcos has hardened the position of the government. If we will loosen up our approach, okay, and find a middle way to cooperate with China, I think we will also generate that kind of reaction.
What do you think is ASEAN's role in managing the South China Sea disputes? Late last year, they released a statement that the growing friction could threaten regional peace, and they urged the rival claimants to engage in peaceful dialogue. Do you think ASEAN should step forward and take a role in driving peace and security in the region?
ASEAN can only fulfill its goal of centrality if ASEAN will take a decisive action on the South China Sea by strengthening its effort in pursuing diplomacy, in pursuing dialogues and pursuing talks. That's the ASEAN way. Unfortunately, the Philippine government under President Bongbong Marcos is doing the American way. But the ASEAN way is conflict avoidance. The ASEAN way is balancing major powers. The ASEAN way is peaceful settlement of disputes. The ASEAN way is economic cooperation and development. That's the ASEAN way. And if you will look at the current situation now, the Philippines is the so-called outlier, the exception in Southeast Asia. We should bring back ASEAN as the centerpiece of Philippine foreign policy.
You're watching CGTN. Still ahead, the Italian job. China's Commerce Minister ends his tour of Europe with the message that all sides have untapped potential to explore.
Welcome to This Way Forward. I'm Emma Keelan.
What do we mean when we talk about the difference?
Brazen axe.
The difference is in the detail, the background,
Defense ministers from
the wider angle and perspective of every story. Wherever the story may be. CGTN. See the difference.
This week on Razor, how saving one species can save an ecosystem. On the trail of European bison.
We have here, as you can see, a nice trail through thick vegetation here, which is done by the bison. It's one of the roads they have in nature. They basically create these pathways through thick vegetation where other smaller animals can't cross.
Hello, welcome back. A reminder of our top stories. At least 32 Palestinians reported killed in the latest Israeli strike on a home in central Gaza. Our other headlines, warnings of an imminent attack. Several countries issue travel alerts with fears that Iran will strike Israeli targets. There is untapped potential to explore. That was the message from China's Commerce Minister as he ended his tour of Europe. Wang Wentao addressed the China-Italy Business Dialogue Forum in the city of Verona. Wang's held talks with the French and Italian governments. His visit comes at a time of heightened tension between the EU and China. Well, let's talk to our correspondent Giles Gibson, who's in Verona. Giles, so these rising tensions, what's coming out of this forum? Italy says it wants to foster trade, but it wants to end its Belt and Road plan with China.
Yeah, Jamie, we're just outside the Expo Centre where this forum has been held, not quite as picturesque as the historical centre of the city of Verona. But look, both sides, the Chinese and the Italians, making very positive noises about the potential for trade between them. Wang Wentao saying that there were high hopes amongst the Chinese delegates, the business representatives who were attending, and Antonio Tajani, the Italian foreign minister, saying that they were very hopeful that small and medium-sized businesses in Italy were going to get better access to that vast Chinese market. But look, I think we really cannot ignore the background music to all of those optimistic statements from the ministers. The fact that Italy has now left the Belt and Road Initiative. It was part of it from 2019 under then Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte, but the current Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has decided to leave the BRI. You also have these series of investigations launched by the European Commission into state subsidies over imports of Chinese goods, so everything from electric vehicles to wind turbines. That's one of the latest ones that's just been announced. Beijing are saying in response to those investigations that the European Commission, that the European Union is acting in a protectionist way. So look, despite these very positive noises coming from the business community, coming from the Italian and the Chinese ministers, there are these real tensions between China and the wider European Union.
And Italy's Prime Minister has a more domestic, a more local headache to deal with. The Fiat car company, one of the most iconic brands in Italy, planning to move production to Poland.
Yeah, that's right. This is the new Fiat Milano. It's a small SUV that the Italian car company are launching, but they have decided to build it not here in Italy. Many of their factories are in northern Italy, but actually in Poland instead. And that has triggered a furious reaction from the Italian industry minister, Adolfo Urso. But we have the CEO of Stellantis, the car giant that owns the Fiat brand, coming back and saying that, look, if they decided to build that car here in Italy rather than in Poland, that it would be a third more expensive as a result for customers, for people actually buying that Fiat Milano. It's also worth noting, Jamie, that this is actually the second blow for Giorgia Meloni just this week in terms of the car industry. The Chinese auto giants Chery International had been linked very strongly with building a factory in Italy to build its cars. It's also set to launch a couple of electric car brands here later in the year. But now we are hearing from Spanish government officials that they are very close to signing a deal with Chery for that factory to be built in the region of Catalonia instead. So 2 blows in the matter of days for Giorgia Meloni when it comes to manufacturing in her country.
Giles, thank you for that. Our correspondent Giles Gibson in Verona. China has confirmed that the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will pay an official visit to the country from Sunday. Scholz is expected to meet China's President Xi Jinping and the Premier Li Qiang. Beijing says it hopes to enhance understanding and cooperation with Berlin through Scholz's visit. His last trip there was in 2022. The UK has taken a step closer to exiting recession, with official figures showing the economy grew slightly in February. GDP rose by 0.1%, boosted by production and manufacturing in areas such as the car industry. Construction, though, was dampened by wet weather. China's foreign trade expanded by 5% in the first quarter of this year to exceed $1.4 trillion, but exports contracted sharply during March. The official data shows the value of goods being sent overseas dropped 7.5% for the month. Experts say that's largely due to intense price competition in the electric vehicle market and green tech industry. It's 10 years since the Chibok schoolgirl kidnapping in Nigeria, where Boko Haram militants abducted 276 students from their dormitory in the middle of the night. While some were freed or managed to escape, the authorities' waning interest and ongoing mass abductions has left many families in despair. Our correspondent Sharon Baranga reports.
Global outrage to the Chibok kidnapping was swift. The Bring Back Our Girls campaign drew support from the likes of Michelle Obama and Sylvester Stallone. Then in 2016 and 2017, negotiations led to the highly publicized liberation of around 100 captives. Solomon Miner's daughter, Deborah, was not one of them, and for him, the tragedy is ongoing.
When I remember this, my doctor, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. Because she's the only best doctor among those I have that the God gave me. So I will never forget her.
Miner only gets information about his daughter from other people who have escaped from the militants. The last he heard about her was in 2018.
She said that she spent a week with her because she is her auntie. She said that when I go and meet her, she have 2 children and she's weaving. This is the work that she have go. She learned in the bush.
Yagana Yamani is one of the liberated captives. She waited years for funds promised by the government to continue with her education. She finally asked her mother, a farmer, to help. Now 25, she is studying public health.
And after secondary school, they said that even master's degree, everything they will do for us. But after that secondary school, we didn't see anything again. Nobody called us that this girl has graduated from secondary school. Let us take us for the university or other school. No. They didn't fulfill their promise.
Many abductees who have returned home are struggling to resume normal life, especially those who spent the longest time in captivity. Some are raising children fathered by their captors. Dozens of girls freed only in recent years are living inside a military-run rehabilitation camp with surrendered Boko Haram fighters they were forced to marry in the forest. That's according to the Murtala Muhammad Foundation, a charity that advocates for them. Family members say government officials have officiated over such weddings in an apparent effort to appease the surrendered fighters.
I can say they're still married, like with the contact they hold in the forest, so they're still holding to that tie, to that bond, and I don't know, maybe after they were fully released into the society, they will do a proper wedding with the blessings of their parents, because I believe some of them, their parents have not yet blessed the marriage.
Roughly 90 Chibok girls are still missing. Based on the accounts of former abductees, the Murtala Muhammad Foundation believes a third of those have died in captivity. Sharon Baranga, CGTN.
Chinese cinema is centre stage in London, playing to an international audience at the China Film Festival. As our correspondent Siobhan McCall now reports, organisers hope it'll be a great platform to deepen creative ties.
The power of the silver screen. Film can play a vital role in cultural exchange, collaboration and enhancing friendship. That's the message from China's ambassador to the UK, Zheng Zheguang, who opened this year's festival.
I know some of you have been to China. Many of you have not. But please, use these 6 movies as invitation to see the real China. I think the China you are going to see will be very different from what you read in the press here.
The festival attracted both new and seasoned Chinese film enthusiasts.
And that's what I like, you know, that's what I travel for. It's that uniqueness, it's that different perspective of things.
I'm really amazed by the recent, very amazing Chinese movies. And I'm happy to see that Chinese movie come to the UK.
I was a fan of Bruce Lee from earlier on, and I see Chinese as one of the world power.
Screening on the opening night was one and only, The Tale of Street Dancing. A testament to the power of perseverance, it paints a similar picture to classic British films such as Billy Elliot and Chariots of Fire.
China Film Festival 2024 says it's aiming to showcase the diversity and charm of Chinese cinema to the world. And it comes at a time where Chinese films are taking on an increasing international significance. The Wandering Earth 2, one of the films being shown at this festival, well, that became the first Chinese film to open on the same day in China and in the UK.
The Wandering Earth 2 was in the top 10 films worldwide in 2023. And it became the highest grossing Chinese language film in the UK box office over the past 15 years. In 2014, the UK and China signed a film co-production agreement with the aim of encouraging closer cultural ties. Rupert Daniels from the Department for Business and Trade spoke of the UK government's support for the film industry and encouraged people from all over the world, and particularly from China, to take advantage.
You can tell by the buzz around us that Chinese cinema is really where it's at the moment, and bring that together with the UK and you've got some real magic. So we're looking forward to seeing what we can do between China and the UK to make this even more special.
China's film market generated $8 billion in box office revenue last year, with domestically made films accounting for almost 84% of that. And as the country pushes to become a major cinematic player, festivals like this can help connect Chinese film with international audiences. Siobhan McCall, CGTN, London.
And that is The World Today. Thank you for watching. Coming up next is World Insight. For now, from all of the team in London, it's goodbye.